Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the League Unlocked Brigade. Eric and Mark here with you guys to go through some power rankings from week 1 in the LPL. 7 days of action, and they are immediately rewarded by a full week off.
Yeah, time for that Lunar New Year break here over in the LPL, but that just gives us an extra week here to break down the power rankings going on here and see who is the top dogs over in China.
And it was a very interesting first week. Obviously, the scheduling in the LPL, some teams are playing twice, a lot of teams only played once. So it's hard to go off of and actually rank these squads based off one game or one series, but that's exactly what you got to do. That's why power rankings are the most difficult early on in the season. We're going to go through all 17 teams, throw a ranking on them, and the bottom 6, really, a lot of them left many things to be desired with some underwhelming performances.
Hey, doing LPL Power Rankings, one of the best things about it here is having all the teams in the league here and having that, you have so many teams here, you are going to get some really elite squads here towards the top, but that also means on the flip side, you got to deal here with the bottom tier squads in the LPL. And hey, even 1 weekend, very clear to mention here, some of these squads aren't going to be the ones carrying their weight and aren't really anywhere close to having any championship hopes.
And a lot of the themes in the LPL, you don't have a marquee name or player on your squad, you're probably going to struggle. And Victory 5 is one of the teams that it's one series, but they really had almost zero positives going for them, which is why they're in at the bottom spot. Because even a team like Suning, and they lost to Rogue Warriors, who were supposed to be right at the bottom of the rankings coming into this year, despite having former T1 players in Crazy in the top lane. But Suning had a lead in both of those games against Rogue Warriors. Maybe probably should have won, ended up throwing them. Maybe you could punish them even more for losing those kind of games, but there were some positives to take, and SFM is still a good jungler.
Still something to be building on, I guess, here is again, you got to...
Not much to build on.
You have to find some type of positives here, and I think there is at least enough here that you can say, look, week 1, in the books here. Got to be moving forward and be better, but this is where we're going to be starting from. And look, it's better than nothing to be building off of here, and that's what I saw. Getting those leads, good enough here, but certainly going to be a lot of work heading into the rest of the season here to make sure that you're capitalizing on those leads you've generated.
And it's SFM and Angel for Suning are going to be the key players going forward. And is that enough to really push this team towards playoffs? I believe we had them 10th in the preseason. Didn't play to that level coming into this week, but it's one series that they've played. Still plenty to improve upon. World Elite is a team that was near the bottom as well, and you could probably argue them even behind the other two. I think the bottom 4 are pretty interchangeable. None of them have a win. They all only played one best of series. World Elite and OMG both share a common thread in that they got absolutely smashed by JDG. OMG got smashed slightly less, so they get one spot ahead of World Elite.
And this is very disappointing for World Elite because, hey, you had the big-time exodus coming through this year with both Mystic and Shie leaving the organization. You hoped, hey, new blood here. Hopefully we can see some type of rebound here, even not expecting the same as those big names here, not delivering anywhere close to what World Elite fans would want to be seeing.
And for OMG, SMLZ's career trajectory continues to be on a bit of a downward trend. And he kind of keeps going to a worse team as he goes. I'd like to see him back in that upper echelon of LPL 80 carries. Peanut and crew for LGD had their debut against LNG where they fell up short, but it was a close series. And again, there were some positives to look at for them. Peanut had some first blood. He was actually proactive in the early game, which is things we did not see with Gen G.
And what you saw in that performance from him and specifically the rest of LGD is, yes, there's a lot of kinks still to be worked out for the rest of that squad. Specifically, I saw a lot of communication errors. That seems to be one that you still need to be working on. But individual performances here, Peanut gets the passing grade at least in week 1 and something to move on here for LGD to improve upon that performance.
And the biggest surprise winless team for me after week 1 is Dominus. We had a moderate amount of hype for these guys to maybe be in playoff contention, and even though they lost 2 series, they are still higher up than these other squads because they were going to 3 games, and they looked decent at times. They had some tough competition. They played Invictus, who looked pretty fantastic, and they went up against Vici Gaming in 3 games, who actually looked pretty solid in their own right. There were some good moments, but we even saw GA already not playing in some of these games, which is something I was surprised and didn't expect to see for the entire year, considering he was always playing on World Elite.
Is one of those big-time pickups that you'd be expecting here from the offseason to deliver the performance that you want to be having. And hey, I saw some of those signs here from him when he was playing, but he's not playing the entire time, so you can't be judging it completely on that. And then again, the performance here against IG, you're not really going to be giving them too many negatives for a loss here against Invictus Gaming, but certainly the one against Vici was one that was in their hands, ready for them to take there, but it's Coma's squad coming away with the victory, not Dominus.
Yeah, and there's a lot to improve, a lot to work on, obviously, for Dominus. There's a lot of the same roster coming back, but jungle seems to be a big issue for them, whether it's Bless or Zhao Peng. Both of them struggled in both series, really. Mark and Gala, your namesake, got to shout him out. They looked decent. They looked good. That was one of the big returning parts from Dominus from last year. So the bot lane and hopefully GA are the stepping stones for them to play through. Rogue Warriors were a spot ahead of them, and they're the only squad, 17-11, that actually picked up a win. It was against Suning, as we talked about. You get a W, you got to be higher.
Hey, this part of the power rankings, you get that W, earns you the top spot in this section of the power rankings, but still a lot of work here left for Rogue Warriors if they want to keep climbing up these power rankings as the season continues.
I mean, there's just one too many for Rogue Warriors. Otherwise, they'd be number 1. Number 11, it's a close second to number 1, right?
11's, it's almost even better because it's double number 1s, right? That's pretty good.
That is exactly how the math checks out. But the Rogue Warriors can't expect them to pick up that many wins going forward, but at least for now, after week 1, they do fall in that 11th spot. Coming up after the break, we're going 10, the top 10, and the defending world champions, well, they don't really look like the defending world champions. We have returned to League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys, going through now the top 10 for power rankings in the LPL, which is where most leagues start, but China is a little bit special, Mark. They gotta have more teams.
Get a little bit of extra work to go through in the LPL to get towards your top 10 here, but what you've got in this top 10 so far throughout week 1, I think you've got a couple of diamonds in the rough here early on that if you want to jump in and say, you know what, top 5, that's way too easy for me. I want to pick from the top 10. These are your dogs here. These are going to be some of the diamonds that you want to be picking here to win it all.
We've got diamonds in the rough and some very rough-looking diamonds that are also in here. Yes, we've even got winless teams here in the top 10. But in that number 10 spot is LNG eSports, who varying expectations coming into this year. They split their games, lost that matchup in XX's revenge game against TES. They didn't really have a chance in that series, but they did pick up a win elsewhere.
They were far from getting a win in that top esports matchup, but certainly giving you enough here from LNG to say, you know what, this is certainly one of these teams that is going to be vying towards the end of this split here, towards these playoff rankings. That is my general feel so far from what the LNG squad has given us in performance.
And a spot ahead of them is Vici Gaming, Coma's squad. When the macro looks great, all praise Coma, and when it looks bad, it's Coma is nothing without Faker. That is the best part to see in all the Twitch chats.
You've seen early on, I want to say you can absolutely see the identity, see that fingerprint here from Coma on this squad and the way that they approach some of these situations, how they're approaching the draft, things like that. You absolutely are seeing his impact on this roster, but you're still seeing as well that this is the early stages. This is something that you have to remember, that a lot of these members, a lot of these players as well, and the coaching staff are signed here for a long time. In fact, actually to the max contracts here all the way throughout 2022, I believe. So you have to know that this is a long-term project with Vici Gaming, and that, hey, early on, seeing some of these signs, seeing that identity come through here for Coma and the rest of the squad is only good signs here, considering that this is a long journey that Vici have set out for themselves to get to the top of the LPL.
And I will say Forge was one of the more hyped up mid laners to kind of prove himself now as a firmly starting mid laner in the LPL, and he was very underwhelming in week 1. He definitely cost a lot of the early game action and just careless mispositioning errors for them. But they're still 1-1 and plenty of room to grow. The number 8 squad is, you might have heard of them. They are currently the defending world champions, a little known team of Fun plus Phoenix, who in all of 2019 summer, they lost a single best of series, and now week 1 in 2020, they've lost 2.
What a fitting week also to find out some extra news about their FPX World Championship skins coming out as well. The week that you go 0-2.
What are their week 1 skins?
Even better to find out here, but this is not exactly all doom and gloomy here for FPX. When you're looking at this 0-2, certainly does feel that way, and the results indicate that. But the individual performances that you have seen here from the members of FPX, you can find those positives, those silver linings type of things here. But we are seeing a bigger issue again come through, and this is what people thought about heading into the season would be the big cause for concern here, is the conflicting playstyles that you're really seeing from what made FPX so successful last year, is the way that they were able to play around as a team, to then the demands here in the top side of a player like Khan, who demands so much of the jungler's attention here and try to get his lane winning here. And that has certainly been something that they haven't been able to find the balance yet for FPX, the amount of time and attention that Khan does need it to help out in his lane and become strong, as well as the team fights later on. Needs to find that balance to work out for FPX.
And let it be known that Khan, it's not performance issues at all. He looked great in a lot of these games. The couple of games that FPX did win, because it went to 3 games in both their sets against eStar and IG, they won through Khan. He was split pushing, absolutely dominating games on Fiora. It's just an adjustment period for FPX to realize, oh wow, we actually have a carry threat in the top lane, because Gimgoon almost never was playing that role on this squad. So it's about implementing when Doin Beast takes a step back if Khan is on these split push carries. And also a big issue was Tion did not look that good.
No, not his
Finals
best,
MVP.
Not his best week here to start out, but certainly not anything that I think FPX should be too concerned about. Big time, not sounding the alarms yet here, even with the 0-2 start.
RNG had a less alarming start because they only played 1 series. It was against Billy, went 3 games. They're number 7. It's still way too early to actually judge this team. Uzi is still not going to be playing for a couple of weeks. Betty looked fine. Zhao Longbai, he looks good. He's going to be a good jungler in the LPL. Still too early for RNG, but 1 loss does bring him down to 7. And eStar, 2-0, the newest team in the LPL. They took down Fun Plus, and in the games that they won against FPX and the other series that they won, they looked dominant in some of those wins. They looked like they were completely on the same page in movements across the map. And the biggest thing with some of these rookie squads is they're just a little afraid to fully commit to a play. You did not see any inkling of that with this squad.
No hesitation here coming over from eStar, the way that they are delivering in these team fights, the way they're delivering all the way throughout their performances has been exactly what you have seen from them in the past, and delivering it on this level at the main stage of the LPL is what you love to see from these young guns coming up here. And this is one of those things that you basically can't draw up a better debut week for this squad here than the way things went for them early in this one. Again, especially picking up that series win over FPX here, that is exactly the type of debut week that you want.
And Wei, Cryan, and Wink all had fantastic performances. And even in the top lane, Zhao Bai is a guy a lot of people weren't expecting to actually be the main starter. CJJ is also on this roster, another young miracle / RNG product. And the rumor mill is that he hasn't been performing too well in scrims. So he's right in the pine for a little bit, but it's pretty much consensus that his ceiling is even higher. So this team might only be getting better. It's still, I mean, Rogue Warriors was one of the wins, so not too much to take from that. FPX, obviously very impressive, but the way these guys were picking up some of these wins is what was most impressive.
And what's very exciting, again, new organization coming into here, and this is very competitive here in the LPL, and esports over in China, of course, a huge market, and to be able to make a debut like this in the League of Legends, very popular, make that splash. all thumbs up here for eStar after week 1.
Don't forget the names Wei, Cryan, and Wink. Pay attention to them as the season rolls on. Coming up after the break, we hit the top 5 after week 1, and Invictus Gaming a couple of roster changes, and it doesn't look to be an issue whatsoever. What is up, down, and sideways, ladies and gentlemen? Eric and Mark here, back on League Unlock as we have reached the top 5 for the Power Rankings. Week 1 in the LPL, a lot of undefeated teams and a lot of impressive performances, mostly from teams you would have expected to look good. A few surprises here and there for teams that were outside of the top 5, but top 5 looked pretty good.
Okay, top 5 looking fantastic right now in the LPL. Had a couple of surprises heading through, and again, as we said, in the top 10, you got a couple of diamonds in the rough that I think can challenge this top 5 here, but what you're looking in the LPL, of course, all these teams, and at the very top, these squads are absolutely elite, and the way that they're going to be playing this game, take some notes, folks, because this is exactly the League of Legends that you want to be playing.
And there's only one team that actually didn't lose a single game. Now, there were a couple 2-0 squads, but they did drop a game within their respective series, and the only squad that has an actual loss on this one is Edward Gaming, and they're still in the top 5 because that one series that they did lose was against TES. It did go to 3 games, and in their win, they absolutely pumped Knight and the boys in that matchup. Scout looked incredible. I had some reservations about this new EDG lineup, but it turns out as long as they have Scout and Mako on this squad, it almost doesn't matter who you surround them with.
Hey, the debut of JackeyLove as the coach goes pretty darn well here for EDG. You liked what you saw here from not only from the coaching staff, but specifically the players were delivering on the performances that you wanted here. You mentioned Scout really did deliver some fantastic performances this week against top esports specifically, but that is going to be something you have to rely upon if you're EDG moving forward. You really do need to be having the, not only Scout and the rest of the squad here, but specifically for me, Scout, having that premier player, that marquee player, really bring that performance up to that level that you need to against some of these elite squads in the LPL. That is exactly what you're looking for if you're EDG, and it was delivered for you in week 1.
And let's give some credit as well. JJ was great in the jungle. Hope is going to continue to develop as a bot laner. There are still a lot of other talents on this EDG roster, and for TES, it's 2019 again. Knight is amazing. They're going to win through him entirely. His synergy with Karsa already looks pretty solid. The development of 369, he looks great. But that bot lane, it's 2 games in. It's already a question mark. Even some of the games that they were winning, Fodic was underwhelming in his performance. Right now, it looks like a downgrade from Loken. But again, it's week 1. Just still get the feeling that the bot lane is going to be the weakness for TES.
Hey, if we're going to give teams that are in the top 10, even in the top 15, kind of benefits of the doubt with week 1, you got to be giving it over here, even into the top 5 type of level teams here. Give them that time. Need to see a little bit more from them, but you are right here. I want to mention specifically for top, the positives of seeing Karsa's performance with Knight. That is something, again, you didn't have any real doubts that either one of these players would be delivering to what you would expect from them in their careers, but seeing the 2 of them together and seeing kind of those flashes of brilliance kind of come through that you can see even more with some time, some more chemistry built up between the 2 of them here in the jungle. That's exactly what top needs to get to that next level, is to unlock Knight even more so to become that superstar, and having a superstar jungler like Karsa is a great way to get there.
And there's a legit chance we're talking about Knight as the best mid laner on the planet when the spring split comes to an end. Billy is 1 spot ahead of top, and that is mainly because of their incredibly impressive win against RNG. Even with Uzi not on that lineup, you're talking about RNG as one of the premier teams in the LPL, and Billy got it done, got a series win there. They also got a win against Vici, who looked like a decent squad in their own right. So 2 pretty impressive series wins, and Fofo, man, the guy absolutely lived up to the hype as the LMS MVP. Kuro was so important to BLG last split. Fofo filling his shoes more than serviceably.
You are not missing Kuro here, and that is something you didn't think you'd be saying whatsoever heading into this split here for Billy Gaming, and absolutely Kuro it was one of those names that you wanted to be delivered, and he did deliver for Billy. But to say that Fofo stepped in, not only filled those shoes, but excelled even further here is really fantastic. I thought Kingen looked pretty solid here as well for Billy, and specifically though for me as well is Meteor is the big name here for Billy. He had a really strong week, I thought, as well, and one that he can even continue to build off of as we move further into this spring split. But that is an exciting squad, Billy to watch already here in that top 5.
Yeah, Kingen is looking like an upgrade. Meteor was an all-pro jungler. Fofo might even be an upgrade over Kuro. A little early to say that. Kuro had an incredible split, but there's no reason not to think that BLG could be sticking around the top 5 for the majority of the spring split. The roster looks pretty solid so far. In that number 2 spot was JD Gaming, and they're the only squad that is yet to drop a game. They had the easiest schedule in week 1 among all these top 5 teams for sure, but they absolutely clobbered those matchups against OMG and World Elite. Loken back with his former squad, and yeah, there were never any doubts in any of the 4 games that they won.
JD gets a little bit of the benefit here from the way that they looked in their performances and just how badly they kind of pumped the competition here. It is knowing that, yes, week 1, and yes, it was the easier of week 1s here, but JD still took care of business, and that's all you can ask for them to do. And the way that they took care of business, that's why they're slotting in here as number 2, taking care of business with style.
Yeah, and with JDG and Billy, this top 5 is going to be stacked throughout the spring split in the LPL. And the number 1 spot, of course, belongs to the 2018 World Champions in Invictus Gaming. JackeyLove, free agent. He's not coming back to IG. What are you doing? Why did you not re-sign him? They get an upgrade in Southwind over Balon. Puff, not an upgrade over JackeyLove, but the bot lane as a whole looked great for IG. The Shy is the Shy. Rookie is Rookie, and Lian is starting over Nate. Yeah. Or should be going forward.
I think moving forward, that absolutely has to be the move. Yeah, and at least for this LPL spring split, that's what I want to see being decided here for this squad. But everything else looks to be business as usual here for IG, and business is good if you're Invictus Gaming, because the way that they're playing around the map, the way that everyone is contributing, and again, as you said it, no JackeyLove, no problem here for Invictus. You got Puff and Southwind down on the bottom side, and yes, you are right mentioning that Puff has not really delivered an upgrade over JackeyLove, which again, incredibly hard to ask here given one of the best ADCs in the LPL last year. Puff delivering to that level, and yes, Southwind is an upgrade over what you were getting from Baolan. And this is something that, hey, if you're an IG fan, be extremely excited, because that type of level of play coming from your bot side when you already have the riches of the Shy and Rookie on this squad feels pretty darn good for Invictus.
And sure, that first win against FPX was a big come from behind win. They probably shouldn't have won it, but you've got to take into account that coming into the split, FPX was still going to be your consensus number 1 team, LPL defending champs, world defending champions. So it's a statement win for IG to get some revenge from the semifinals at Worlds, and then a win against Dominus. IG definitely deserving of that number 1 spot after week 1, but now they get a break, and we're done today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.